So I've been practicing a few different asana poses and entrance points and whatnot. So I am going to share just a personal practice where I play and try to just see what it feels like in my body to try some of the different arm balances and play and have fun. So I'm going to share it with you. Join if you'd like. I'm going to start first. Comfortable seated position, whatever that means for you. If you prefer anything besides seated, take that. Could be in a chair, could be lying down on your back, on your belly, could be butterfly pose or Baddha Konasana, anything that feels right for you. Once you have your body, physical body, in the position that feels eased and stable, settle in. Make any minor adjustments or major adjustments that you need so that the parts of the body that are touching the ground feel supported and stable. Parts of the body that are not touching the ground feel eased, lightness. As you do that quick survey of the body, if you're noticing areas holding more tension than what you realized, give it a little bit of a wiggle. See if any shifting can help to release some of that stuck energy. Maybe even a lengthened exhale can help to soften. And then keeping the attention on that breath. Noticing the inhale coming in through the nose. Exhale, leaving the nose. Noticing where you feel the breath. Generally, we pay attention to the torso. Could be by the collarbones, the chest, the side ribs. Maybe down into the belly or the mid-back. There's also the opportunity to explore that as you inhale, can you feel the breath moving to the tips of the fingers and the tips of the toes, revitalizing energy throughout the whole body. And with the exhale, releasing, releasing, eliminating tension as much as is available right now. To further that focus, you can always close your eyes if you're in a space where that's comfortable for you. Or just lower your gaze, drop it to something that's not moving, and keep the focus and attention off of any external inputs and really notice the internal, the breath, the physical sensations, the mental state. Can you narrow, slow, and calm the thoughts to just that one focal point, either of the breath, or if that's not resonating with you, maybe it is an image, a light, a color. Maybe it's a sound, a bija mantra, an affirmation. One crystallized focal point for the thoughts that you can remind your mind over and over to come back to that one point. If you are not already in a seated position, either on the floor or in a chair, take the next 3 to 5 breaths to slowly make your way there. Once you have yourself in a seated position, again, doing what feels best for you with the legs, straight out in front, the legs from a chair with the feet on the floor, anything that works for you. You're going to take the hands, just give them a little bit of a shake and a wiggle, maybe roll the shoulders a little bit. And then take an inhale, reach the arms up. You can do this with the eyes closed or eyes open. Exhale, you're going to take that right hand down to the floor or towards the right hip. Inhale, reach up through that left shoulder, and then exhale, side bend to the right. As you reach up through that left shoulder and create space between the armpit and the hip, you're also reminding the shoulder blade to stay lowered down into its pocket. Gaze can either be up underneath that upper arm, or if it's better, feels right for you, you can bring the gaze towards that right shoulder. One more breath. Inhale, lift up, lift both arms. Exhale, side bend to the left. So same thing, lifting up and out of that rib cage. Side bend. Maybe this time you kind of play around with it. You notice which angle with the neck feels better. And then inhale, lift up, both arms up. Exhale, you're going to bring left hand to right knee. Right hand's going to either come to the hip or perhaps back to the base of the spine. And then gentle twist. We're starting off slowly, so we don't need to force. You're not pulling or forcing yourself in. Just a gentle gaze over that right shoulder. Inhale, lift up, and then let's twist over to the left. Take it into the exhale. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, bring the hands down in front of you. You're going to start to move forward into a forward fold of any type, any shape, for whatever intensity feels great for you now. So for some folks, that might be coming all the way down, dropping the forehead to the floor. For other folks, it might just be more with the hands down. Hold for one more breath. And then your inhale lifts you up. Hands come around, fingertips pointed towards your seat. You're going to lift the collarbones up towards the ceiling. Baby back bend, or if you'd like, you can lift the hips. Maybe even gently drop the chin towards the ceiling. And then exhale and release. If you are in any sort of cross-legged position, you're going to switch whichever leg is in front or on top. So taking a moment to get that adjusted. If you're not in a cross-legged position, but you want to adjust to a different leg shape, that's the time to do that. And then we're going to repeat, but move just a little bit quicker, starting on the left side. So inhale, reach up. Exhale, left hand down, side bend. Breathe into the spaces between the side ribs. Inhale, lift. Exhale, bend right. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist left. This time, if it feels right, maybe it's just a little bit deeper. More extension. Crown of the head to the ceiling, tailbone weighted. Inhale and lift. Exhale, lengthen the spine. Twist to the right. Inhale and lift. Exhale, your version of a forward fold. Notice how it feels, especially if you have your legs crossed opposite than the first time. Generally, it's going to feel a little bit different with whichever hip is being targeted. Take that into account as you decide what depth is right on this side. Inhale, lift, hands circle back, fingertips point to the seat, pull the elbows together, shoulder blades down, and then any variation, version, or extension into a back extension. And then exhale, release it down. Unwind your feet, untwine everything, however you want to get there. We're going to roll up into a tabletop. So knees come underneath hips, wrists underneath shoulders, moving at your pace. Taking an inhale. Tailbone and collarbones lift as the belly sways down, and then exhale. Tailbone and chin tuck as the mid-back reaches to the ceiling. Do that again, nice and slow, articulating each vertebrae in turn. Inhaling into cow. As you exhale into cat now, notice that sensation of the mid-back rounding up, tucking that tailbone, thinking about the belly button, pulling up and underneath those front bottom ribs. And then exhale to release into neutral spine. Taking an inhale, you're going to extend the right leg back behind you, toes stay down on the ground. If you would like, you can hang out right here, just pressing the heel back behind you, or you can tuck the left toes into the mat. Float that left knee, press into the palms, push that right heel back behind you. Exhale, release down. Inhale, float the right leg up. Extend the left arm forward if you choose. All of these are just options. And then, if you'd like, reaching the right hand to grasp the front, reaching the left hand to grasp the front of the right ankle. And then cross arch, pressing the front of the ankle into the hand, hand into the ankle. So noticing what's happening in the front of the left shoulder, front of the right thigh. One more breath. And then exhale, release, lower everything down. Repeat on the left side. Extend the left leg back, long but toes down. From there, you can hang out right where you are, or if you would like, really pressing the ball mound of the left foot in, pressing into the palms, and then, if you like, float that right knee, press the heel back to the wall behind you, pull the shoulder blades down towards the back waist. Think about that little bit of a rounded cat back here, belly button towards the spine. Exhale, right knee down, left leg floats. If you'd like, add the right arm. If you'd like, right arm comes to left, right hand comes to left ankle, cross arch on this side, gaze down about 6 inches in front of that left finger, and then exhale to release. Tucking the toes into the mat, take an inhale to prepare. As you exhale, you're going to lift the knees, lift the hips, come into that upside down letter V or downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Shavasana. Thinking about lengthening the tailbone up towards the ceiling. For this first one, you can always walk the dog, alternating bent knees. Base knuckle of each finger, pressing into the mat, base knuckle of the thumb pad, pressing into the mat. If you notice that your heels are a good 2, 3, 4 inches away from the floor, take a little bit of a step forward. Always an option to bend the knees as much as you need to create more length in that tailbone and gain control of the pelvis. One more breath here. Inhale, bring the gaze towards the hands. Your options are to step, walk, or Take a nice bend in the knees, inhale, and then exhale to hop forward. And forward fold, let the head hang heavy. Let the arms kind of dangle if you'd like. Soften the knees if it feels better for your hamstrings and or low back. And then inhale, hands either to the shins or fingertips to the floor, lengthen the spine, crown of the head, reaching forward. And then exhale, release. Inhale, pressing into the base of the feet. You're going to slowly let that spine round up. Arms dangle. One vertebrae at a time until eventually coming to a stand. Stacking joints, knees over ankles, hips over knees, shoulders over hips, crown of the head reaching to the ceiling. Take an inhale, reach the arms to the ceiling. As you exhale, dive forward. Inhale, extend the spine. Half lift. Exhale, plant the palms. You're going to get those base knuckles all planted and firm, and then you can either step back or light hop into plank pose. If you want the knees down, take the knees down. Taking this pose here for a few breaths, you're going to press the energy out through the heels to the wall behind you. Keep the body in a straight line from heels past knees. Hips in line with the heels, shoulders in line with the hips, crown of the head reaching towards perhaps where the wall meets the ceiling in front of you. Bottom front ribs reaching down to touch the top of the pelvis, even though the bones won't ever actually touch. That's the energy that you're pulling. One more breath here. As you exhale, shift the shoulders forward, squeeze the elbows into the rib cage, lower, coming down into chaturanga hover just above the mat. Pull the shoulders out of the ears. And then rolling up, coming either into a low cobra, high cobra, or upward facing dog with thighs floating, tops of the feet pressing into the mat. Hold here and breathe for a moment. Notice the breath. And then take an inhale to prepare. Your exhale, downward facing dog, lift those hips. Press the heels down. Pull the tailbone to the ceiling. Inhale, gaze towards the hand. You're going to step that right foot to where the right hand is, coming into a low lunge. If you have blocks, might want to put the blocks on either side of that right foot. You want to make sure that that spine is still lengthened, just like what we felt like in plank pose. So from the back left heel, past the left hip joint, up through the spine, body is in a straight line. Feeling opening, perhaps in that hip flexor on the left leg, perhaps also encouraging that right hip to stay front, to stay towards center. One more breath here. And then we're going to take a mini step to drop the left heel to the floor. Inhale, reach the torso up. Hands can stay at the hips if you'd like. Your back foot is out at a little bit of an angle, setting up your foundation for warrior one. So taking an inhale to prepare, exhale. Nice deep front knee as the hips orient towards the top of the mat. Option to raise the arms if you choose and gaze at the fingertips. One more breath here. Exhale. Bring those hands down. Interlace the fingers at the tailbone. Pull the knuckles towards the floor as you lift the collarbones. And then exhale, if you choose, coming into a hinge, humble warrior with the right shoulder coming inside the right knee, knuckles reaching up towards the ceiling. Take a nice breath here. Exhale to pull the torso back up. And then extend that front leg. You might want to take a half step forward with the back leg if you like. Reaching both arms up again. Hips oriented to the top of the mat, and inhale. Take another back extension. And then as you exhale, Hands are reaching forward. Come to the ball mound of the back foot. Bend that back knee. So now you're coming into a high crescent lunge. If you choose, hands can come to the waist, and you're bending that back knee down. So heel is really lifted up. Back knee is almost at a 90-degree angle, perhaps, as the front knee is as well. Inhale, reach the arms up. High crescent lunge. Gaze at the fingertips if you like. And then we're going to take 3 knee taps. Take an inhale to prepare. Exhale, tap down. Inhale and lift. Exhale down. Inhale and lift. Exhale down. Inhale and lift. And then bring the hands forward. Bring all the weight into the front foot. Inhale, press off that back foot. Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3. So hips oriented to be parallel to the mat. Back heel lifted, energy out through the heel. Bring in a little bit of an upward facing dog in your upper back. Gaze off to the fingertips. One more breath here. Exhale, step the left foot to meet the right at the top of the mat. Lower the hips, bending the knees perhaps together, or if it's better for you to have a base with the ankles under the hips, go ahead and do that. Arms out, reaching and extending and serving out goodness in front of you, coming into chair pose. You are welcome to hang out right here, or on an inhale, prepare, and on an exhale, start to lower down more and more and more, maybe even into a crouch. Keep the length in the spine, keep serving out goodness. Now, from here, you can come back to chair, you can take a break, come to Tadasana in a standing pose, or you can set up for side crow. So hands coming over to the left side, pull that right knee in line with the left knee, lift up the hip so that you can get that shelf of an upper arm to have for both upper arms to be a shelf for the left thigh. Gaze over out beyond the fingertips. Pull in the belly button, little bit of a cat back, eventually float the toes. One more breath. Exhale, release. Step it back. If you did not go into crow pose, we're now going to come all the way back up and meet you in chair. Take one more breath here. And then now from here, you're going to bring weight into the right foot. Step that left foot all the way to the back. Bring the right arm behind you, coming into a twisted lunge. Extend that left hand forward. Reach it over. Perhaps you touch the fingertips down. Perhaps you come into prayer twist. Perhaps you just rest the elbow on the thigh, whichever one works better for you. And then we're going to hold here and breathe. Length out that left leg. Take 2 more breaths here. And then windmill, bring both arms up and over, extend the legs and transition into facing the long edge of the mat. So toes are out at an angle. Heels are supported. Hands are on the hips. Take an inhale. Lengthen the tailbone towards the ground as you lift the sternum towards the ceiling. Exhale, hinge forward, shooting the hips back and land the hands down. Lift, create length in the spine, and then eventually lower the crown of the head. Let the nervous system settle. Lengthen that exhale. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, We're going to start to move towards your left foot. So you're going to bring the right hand either towards the left foot, onto the shin, maybe to the ankle, maybe to the outside of the foot. As you do, encourage that right hip point to stay up towards the ceiling, encouraging the pelvis to stay as parallel as possible to the floor. And then either lengthening left arm up to the ceiling, or if you'd like, exploring what it's like to bring that left hand to the right wrist, dropping the right elbow to the floor, perhaps forehead comes towards the left knee. And then exhale, releases all of that, coming back towards the center. If you would like, you can play around with tripod balance or just stay in a forward fold. So hands coming back, setting up the fingertips beyond the heels of the feet, creating that triangle between the hands and the head, and then creating a shelf with the upper arms, touching the feet together maybe, then breathe. Exhale gently, slowly, release it out. Back to your forward fold if you're not already there. And then we're going to keep that left foot parallel to the back edge of the mat. Turn the right toes to point to the top edge of the mat. Lift yourself up. You have your foundation and base already set up here. So you're going to reach that left hand. Take a bit of a bind, bringing it over to the right thigh. Inhale, reach the right arm up. Exhale, bend into that right knee, setting up for reverse warrior. So options might be to bring the gaze to that left heel or gaze up towards the ceiling underneath that right arm. Notice if you can bring that lunge just a little bit deeper as you encourage the pelvis to stay parallel to the side edge of the mat. One more breath. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, bringing that right arm all the way down. You can lower elbow to the thigh or bring it inside. Perhaps fingertips inside the front leg. Really encouraging that left shoulder open. If you like to take it into a full bind, bringing the right arm underneath the right thigh, grasping the left hand or using a strap, opening the shoulders again. Nice full breath. And then hands are going to come inside that front foot. You're going to pivot again, coming to Skandasana. So now we're going to bring weight of the torso either onto that right heel, or if lowering the right foot flat to the ground is available to you, you're going to take that. And then lengthen the spine, firm up that left thigh. Hands can either come to heart center, or you can extend the arms out wide. Or if you're like me and you want to play around with how is it feeling to get that right heel lengthened or lowered down to the ground as you lengthen the spine. Bring those arms out in front. And this is something that perhaps maybe, depending on the angles of your skeleton and how the bones fit together, maybe it's a fit, maybe it's a not. And then exhale, release. And then just easily, right? Easily, haha. Bring those hands again inside that right foot, coming now into lizard. From here, if you choose, you can drop the back knee down or keep it lifted. If you would like, you can bring the right hand around to the outside of the right ankle. If you choose, you can come down to your elbows or other option, and you choose any of these, does not matter which one. Another option, coming into another arm balance. So setting up your right arm as a shelf for the back of your right thigh, coming into 8-limb arm balance, extending perhaps the right leg out to the side, kind of in front, lifting that left knee up. Left elbow is a support for the left hip. Nose can either touch the floor or hover. One more breath. Exhale, release, drop the knees down, and then you're going to set up your right foot as your support. Bring the right fingertips 6 to 8 inches out in front. Push off with the back leg, and then come into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. You can hover the right fingers if you like, trying to open up the hips to face the long edge of the mat, energy out through that left heel, pressing to the wall behind you. One more breath. And then your inhale just swings that leg forward. Bring the right foot to a little bit of a hover in front of you. You can hang out here. You can come into Vrikshasana, tree pose, or pull that knee all the way up towards the left armpit. Maybe noticing the accessibility of the left heel towards the right hip. Perhaps coming into a bind, bringing the right hand behind you to grab, left hand behind you to grab the left toes. If that's the case, dropping that left knee down, perhaps reaching the right arm up. And then perhaps exhaling, gently, slowly cascading forward, dropping the right hand down. So any number of those standing balances are an option. Just hovering the toes above the floor for the left foot. Tree pose. Perhaps it's a one-legged mountain. And then take one more breath here. If you are in this bound, it's a Padasana. If you are similar to the shape I am in, variation of a balancing pose, you can also release that left hand. You might need to adjust the angle with your left knee, get yourself a little bit more space. I'm going to also shift my right foot back so I can come a little bit more towards the middle of my mat. And then now I have a triangle between my two hands and my right foot. I am going to bend that right knee, start to create a shelf again with my upper arms. Just my right knee into my right elbow, hook my left toes over my right shoulder, and then gaze forward, pull that belly button up and in. Mad cat back, blow up the back toes. And then exhale, release. Drop the foot down, release into a exhaled forward fold. Let the neck extend. Release tension. Inhale, half lift. And then exhale, release. And then inhale, float the torso up. All right, coming back, starting all of that on the other side. Take an inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift and extend the spine long. Exhale, Exhale, forward fold. Plant the hands. If you would like, you can step back or press weight into the palms. Light hop back. Let's hold that plank. Feel that sensation, belly button pulling up and in. Bottom front ribs coming to the top of the pelvis. Muscles of the thigh really hugging the femur bone. Shoulder blades out of the ears. One more breath. Shift the shoulders forward on the inhale. Exhale, chaturanga, hover, hover. Pull the core in. Flip to the tops of the feet. And then your version of a back extension. One more breath. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, flip the feet again, and this time come into your Adho Mukha Shavasana. And then inhale, gaze to the hands. Step that left foot forward. Set up for your low lunge on this side. So again, quadricep, all the muscles of the thigh, hugging the femur bone so that that energy can press the heel to the wall behind you, keeping that spine nice and lengthened, the whole backside of the body in a straight line, using blocks to lift the hands. If that's a better fit for you. One more breath here. Slight step forward with that back foot, letting the heel press down, foot is flat to the floor. Set up that base foundation to float the torso up on an inhale, setting up your spine, your pelvis for warrior one. Again, you're orienting towards the top edge of the mat, not forcing it. As you exhale each time, a little bit deeper lunge into that front knee. If you like, arms lift, shoulders down, gaze up. One more breath. Exhale. Release the hands. Interlace the fingers this time the way that feels a little bit more awkward. Drop the knuckles down towards the floor. Open up the collarbones. Shine the heart to the ceiling. And then exhale. Humble warrior if you choose. Drawing that left shoulder down inside the left knee. Knuckles up towards the ceiling. And then exhale to release the hands. Inhale, float the chest. You can always step that back foot forward again a little bit if you would like to have a little less space so you can really bring those hips forward. Lengthen out both legs. Reach the arms up. Back extension. Maybe there's space to go a little bit deeper on this one. Maybe there's not. Either way, take what works best in your body. And exhale. Bring those hands forward. Serve it out. Weight into that front leg. Press off with the back leg. Coming into Virabhadrasana. Breathe. Back foot is flexed. A little bit of an upward facing dog in the shoulders and upper back. One more breath here. And then exhale, step the foot down, come into your chair pose. Setting yourself up so that your tailbone is heavy and weighted. You can see your toes beyond your knees. Sternum is lifted, heart shining forward. Arms either can be straight out from the shoulders. If you prefer to have the arms bookends for the ears, do that instead, but keep the shoulder blades down towards the back waist. And if you want to hang out here, you're going to hang out here. If you want to come all the way down and come into that crouch, keep the core engaged. Serve out the goodness, shoulders out of the ears, lengthen the spine. Take another breath. And if you did it on the other side, or if you didn't do it on the other side and you want to try it here, we're going to set up side crow, moving to the right. So both hands, fingertips
facing off the long edge of the mat to the right. Bend those elbows, create a shelf with the upper arm, moving that right hip onto the right upper arm, left knee in line with the right knee, and then twist, gaze over to the right, eventually floating the toes. And exhale, floating down. Come back to your crouch and curl. Extend the arms out. And then on an inhale, start to float up. Coming back into your chair pose. Lovely. And then now from here, I'm going to need to move myself a little bit forward to the top edge of my mat. You're going to bring weight into the left foot. You're going to bring the left arm back behind you as you reach the right foot back behind you. So now you have your lunge again. Ooh, we missed something. We're going to come back to high crescent lunge on this side. We just have it in a little different sequence and order. That's fine. Inhale, reach the arms up. Gaze at the fingertips. This is your 3 knee taps. Take an inhale to prepare. Exhale, tap it down. Inhale and lift. Exhale, tap it down. Inhale and lift. One more. Tap. Inhale, lift. And now, twist. Lovely. So, same thing that you did on the other side, or perhaps a different variation on this side, if that is what fits for you. We're going to come into that twist. So for me, taking my hand down, right hand down outside the left foot, and then left arm up, right leg extended. If you prefer to use your elbow on the thigh or do prayer twist, any other version, totally fine. And then exhale, release all that. Hands come inside the left foot, so you can pivot, come up, facing the long edge of your mat. Hands on the hips. Outer arches are secure, inner arches are secure. Take an inhale, lift the sternum. As you exhale, hinge forward from the hips. Lower yourself into a wide-legged forward fold. Hands can stay on the hips. You can release them to the floor. And think about releasing tension out of the back of the neck. If you want to hang out here, hang out here. If you would like to come into the twist similar to what we did on the other side, this time it's going to be left hand coming towards that right foot. If it's just outside of the right or inside the right foot, that's fine. Maybe it's shin, maybe it's ankle, maybe it's outer arch. Once you have that, your right hand can just stay right by the leg if you like, or you can reach it up to the ceiling. Or you can bring that right hand, find a bind on the left wrist, perhaps left elbow to the floor, perhaps bringing forehead to the knee. And then exhale, unwind, release all of that, come back towards center. Now, if you'd like to repeat tripod headstand, you're going to go ahead and do that. If you'd like to play around with a different arm balance called Titi Basan, firefly pose, you're going to walk the feet in just a little bit closer together. So you still have kind of this squatty pose. My feet are outside the edges of my pelvis. And then kind of squat down, get the shoulders down inside the knees, kind of nudge them in there. And then wrap the forearms behind the shins. Now, I always need to kind of scoop my feet forward once I get here because I want to really get as much of my upper arms available to rest the backs of my thighs on. So like so. Once you're there, this is again where you're really wanting to feel that same sensation of that rounding the cat back, the mid back up and in. We're playing around with bandhas here. So pulling the mula bandha, Muladhara bandha up, like pulling that belly button up and underneath the front ribs. So Uddiyana bandha, and then Jalaharan bandha with the throat lock as well. So if those are in your practice, this is where you're going to want to integrate those as well. And then start to extend the toes out in front, broaden across the shoulder blades. Maybe you lift one set of toes, maybe the other, or maybe you breathe and lift both. And then exhale, walk it back, and release into a forward fold. Now, we're going to need to walk that right foot back, outer arch parallel to the short edge of the mat. And then left toes are going to point to the top edge of the mat. You're going to inhale, lift up. Exhale, bend into that front knee as you draw the right hand back around the low back. If you don't want to do the half bind or the full bind, don't do it. Just bring the arms, perhaps bring that right arm down the back, right leg. Once you have pelvis oriented towards the long edge of the mat, front knee over that front set of toes, lift the left arm up, and then side bend, gazing either at the right ankle or at the left arm. Breathe in your reverse warrior. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, your version of the extended side angle. So again, I am keeping the half bind. I'm going to bring option to bring the left elbow to the top of the thigh. Perhaps the hand comes inside or outside the left foot. Or perhaps you take the full bind. Whichever variation or version that you're choosing, really lifting that right shoulder up and away from the ground, opening the chest. One more breath here. And then exhale. Release everything. Hands come down inside that front foot, turning the ankles so that you can shift your weight and come into Skandasana on this side. So again, all of those same variations. Maybe your weight is on the heel. Maybe your weight is on the whole flat foot. Once you have your balance, once you have that spine lengthened, once you have your right leg firmed up, then either extend the arms out or hands to heart center, noticing that perhaps maybe it's different than the other side. And then again, for me, it's playing around with what does it feel like to get that left heel all the way down to the ground. How much can I extend my spine? And then release, lift up. Bring those hands inside that front foot. Do a quick little pivot, setting up for lizard. So knee down or knee up and back, either on the elbows or on the palms. Maybe you have blocks to rest yourself on, either hands or elbows. Or if you're going to do the 8-limb arm balance on this side, you're wrapping that left hand and forearm around the calf of the left foot, creating a shelf with your upper arm for that left thigh, and then shelf with the right elbow for that right hip point. Start to move the left toes out, extend the leg, and then float. Hold and breathe. And slide it back. Bring the foot down. From here, you're going to lift up. Bring that left hand in front of the left toes. Start to float that back foot up. Ardha Chandrasana on the left side. Release it up. Open the pelvis. Gaze can be down at the left fingertips or up at the right fingertips. Perhaps you float the left fingertips. One more breath. And then inhaling, swing it around. Float that right foot up. This again is your choice. Perhaps you just hover the right toes. Maybe it's Ekapada Tadasana with just the knee up, hip height. Maybe it's tree pose or Vrikshasana. Or if you tried it on the other side, or if you didn't, you're encouraging that right knee up towards the right armpit. Right heel towards the left hip point. Maybe you stay there. Maybe you wrap the right hand around, get those toes. Drop the right knee. Each of these are suggestions. They're just stops along the way. You choose which stop to take for yourself. If you'd like, left arm lifts. On an exhale, if you like, slowly, gently cascade forward. Using your drishti, your gaze, to keep your balance. And then once that left hand is to the floor, then deciding how much do you want it back towards the left foot. Exhale, release the bind so that you can bring that right hand down. Now, if you want to go into the arm balance on this side, I'll move myself back to the center of my mat so I have a little bit more space. That's what you're going to set up for. If you are in tree pose or any other standing balance, you can either release it, take a break, or hang out there. So again, this time, right armpit, right knee, left shoulder, right toes, left elbow, left knee. Mad cat back, and then breathe, pull in those bandhas, float the back toes. And hold it as long as you like. Exhale to release. From here, if you're standing, come back down into that crouch pose. We're all going to kind of land here so we can shift ourselves forward. Come back to the center of the mat. Broaden the knees, lower the seat, lower the forehead, and rest in Balasana Child's Pose. Just one more breath here. Inhale, float the forehead, lift yourself up. Move yourself into a seated position on the mat. Knees up, feet flat on the floor. Pull the knees into the chest. And then once you have this nice tight tuck, maybe your sits bones are as close to your heels as you can get them. I'm going to take a big toe grip. You also have the option to do outer edges of the outer arches of the feet, or perhaps shins, or you can just hang out right where you are. Take an inhale. Lengthen the spine, shoulders away. Float the feet. Keep that spine lengthened. Keep the chest close to the thighs. And then as you continue to breathe, lengthening the legs, thinking about perhaps maybe pulling the knees or outer calves up into the elbows. Hold and breathe. And then as you exhale, perhaps coming into the wide leg version. Take one more breath here. And then release.
and come into either a cross-legged position, or you can cross one foot on top of the thigh, or if it's available and feels right for you, you can cross both feet over the thighs. Coming into scale pose, you're going to lift the knees, one more arm balance each side. So hands underneath the thighs, lengthen that spine to begin. Take an inhale. As you exhale, bandha's engaged. Come into a floating the seat, floating the legs. Keep breathing. And exhale and release. Lovely. And then recrossing the other direction. That's variation. Scale pose on this side. Hands. I tend to keep my hands a little bit closer to upper thigh rather than mid thigh. You can play around with it, see what works better in your body. Everybody's skeletons are different. Inhale, engage the bandhas. On the exhale, and then lift. And then release. Nice job. All right, unwinding all of that. Extend the legs out in front of you. Inhale, reach the arms up. Toes up to the ceiling. Spine lengthen. Exhale, lengthen the spine, hinging from the hips. Keeping that spine lengthened. Sternum reaching for the toes. Shoulders out of the ears. Land the hands wherever the spine and hamstrings say to stop. From there, we're going to just pause 20, 30 seconds. See what opens up, if anything softens. If it does, eventually feel the opportunity to round the spine down. Inhale and lift. Walk yourself up slowly and carefully. Same thing, but this time wide-legged version. So moving the legs out to your variation, to your version of wide leg. Thinking about that heel being planted at the center so that the toes can grow straight up to the ceiling from the center of the heel. And then inhale, lift. Exhale, come down. And then again, you're going to go forward with that lengthened spine to the point where your groins, your back, low back, anything says far enough, and then you're going to pause. Give it a few breaths. If you notice any softening, any additional extra space, adjust the toes up to the ceiling. And then from there, perhaps you draw down a little bit further. And then from there, if it feels good and right, go ahead and round the spine. One more breath. Inhale and lift. This will be our last seated variation. It can also transition into a prone down on your back. So you can either do one leg at a time or both legs back, coming into this variation of hero's pose. So toes pointing back behind you, hips are between the heels. Some folks say keep the knees together. I'm a huge proponent of it. Depends on how wide your pelvis is and what's safest for your knees according to that angle. So yes, if knees together is a great fit for you and it feels good in your body, fine. If you're noticing tension on the knees by keeping the knees together, give them a little bit of a gap if they need that. Then from there, perhaps hands back, lift the sternum. Again, this can be one leg at a time, and then you're going to switch out after a couple breaths, couple minutes, or down to the elbows. Or if it is going to become a prone version, you're going to come all the way down onto your back, and then we're going to hold and breathe. So noticing how this is, yes, quadricep, hip flexor, psoas muscle, all of that. And also heart opener, lifting that heart, the sternum towards the ceiling. And especially if you are either on your elbows or on your back, you also are getting that back extension. Well, you're getting a back extension regardless, but different variations of it. We're going to transition fully down onto our backs. So you're going to get there in whatever way makes sense in your body. If you want to sit back up, if you're on your back and get those legs lengthened out, that's an option. Or perhaps you slide one foot out at a time. Lengthen the left leg long. Exhale, bring the right knee in towards the chest. So that right inner thigh is coming to the outer edges of the right rib cage. Knee up towards the armpit. Hold and breathe. You're going to take anywhere from 2 to maybe 5 lengthened inhales and exhales here, depending on what feels good for you. Really encouraging the pressure of that right inner thigh up against the side body on the right side. Eventually, when it feels good for you, you're going to take an inhale to prepare, and your exhale is going to draw that right knee over to the left side. Right arm comes out from the shoulder, perhaps, maybe the chin comes to the right shoulder. And then again, 3 to 5 lengthened inhales flowing into extended exhales. You are moving at your pace. When you are ready, doesn't need to be the same pace as mine. Your inhale draws you back to center. And then your exhale extends that right leg long as the left knee comes up towards the left armpit. Left inner thigh is encouraged to kind of wrap to the outside of the left side body. Lengthen exhale. Three to 5 breaths here. And again, at your pace, when you are ready, take inhale to prepare and exhale to move. Left knee to the right side. Chin can come to the left shoulder if it feels right. Opening up the left arm. And then eventually, at your pace, when it feels right for you, slide all that back to center. And inhale. And then your exhale just melts everything down on your mat. Coming into your version at your time.
Maybe it's going to be in a few breaths yet, finishing up with anything that you need for your body. And then your version of a final rest, Shavasana. If that is down on your back, you might want to consider legs a little wider, toes falling open, ankles releasing, arms a few inches from the side body. I am preferring palms down today, or you can do palms up. If it's better for you to come to a fetal position on either side, resting your head on your upper arm and kind of curling the knees in, take that, or on your belly, or any seated final rest, especially if you can have your back against the wall or against a chair back. Resettle the mind back on its anchor, your breath, that image or visual, that sound, whatever it is that works for you. Let it settle your mind, let it settle your body, let it release your nervous system. And as you breathe, maybe 1, 2, or 3 times you take as much air in through the nose as you can and extend that exhale long and released and relaxed. I encourage you to stay here longer. This is a video for you to turn off and stay in your Shavasana. You do not need me or any other video to help you to stay here longer. I will cue you through when you are ready to release and come back to your day. To just slowly start with small movements in the smallest joints. Gradually, slowly let that move into the next joints up the chain. Full body stretch feels good. You can take that. And then you're going to come back into your space. If you're not already seated, come back up to seated in any way that makes sense for you. And this is only when you are ready to come out of your final resting pose. And when you do, have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for your time and for playing. I'll see you again next time.